Newcastle is situated in the northeast of England and on the north bank of the River Tyne. Home to over 256,000 affectionately named Geordies, it is the 20th most highly populated urban area within England. The city is renowned for landmarks such as the Angel of the North and the Millennium Bridge. It offers a selection of bars, clubs and restaurants, as well as numerous art galleries and an intriguing history. Many different trades such as wool, cloth, fish and hide exportation have aided Newcastle in becoming developed as a merchant and trading community, but shipbuilding and heavy engineering have been central to the city's prosperity, and Newcastle is seen as being the powerhouse of the Industrial Revolution. However, Newcastle's development into the major city that it is today is due in most part to its central role within the exportation of coal. Due to the success of the coal industry in Newcastle during the late 17th century, revenue within the city was increased, and by the mid-18th century the city's population had risen to around 20,000. Due to this, the city began to spread beyond its walls, and suburbs were created. Though this may have been seen as beneficial to the city, there are, of course, two sides to every coin. Although the boom within the coal mining industry and sudden increase of the city's popularity and population was seen as beneficial at the time, it meant that the majority of jobs were limited to mining-based labour that was not well paid. This meant that much of the older and less wealthier parts of the city were left poverty-stricken, and many of Newcastle's inhabitants were not able to share in the wealth that the industry brought. English writer and journalist Daniel Defoe commented on the prodigious number of poor in Newcastle. He stated that wealthier citizens began to desert the centre of town for the cleaner and healthier suburbs and to get away from the poverty. Westgate was the first of these suburbs, with Gosforth and Jesmond to follow, and it is here that we first begin to see a clear class divide within the city. Like most cities, Newcastle has had, and still has to this day, a diverse cross-section from areas of poverty to areas of affluence. Places such as Darras Hall, which is recognised as being one of the most exclusive housing estates in the northeast of England, and Jesmond as being well known for its old, grand and in-demand houses, are a direct opposite to places within Newcastle, such as Scotswood. Scotswood is a housing estate in the middle of Newcastle. It is made up of mostly terraced houses that were built during the Industrial Revolution to house the workers of the huge military engineering group Vickers and Armstrong. It also served as the location for a coal mine, of which residents would have also worked. This particular area of Newcastle was extremely working class and hugely poverty-stricken. As you can see by this picture, not a lot has changed. The terraced houses, although most are boarded up, still remained and paid tribute to what was once one of the biggest working parts of the city. The feeling of the working class background still remains in this housing estate to this day. It could be said that the inhabitants of this area are holding on to their cultural memories and the background of their working class ancestors. Cultural memory does not have to be based on fact, it is based on how people interpret it for themselves. It is not about remembering the past, but remembering who we are and where we have come from. An example of this is the Baltic Flour Mill. What was once a highly successful mill producing flour and animal feed is now a centre for contemporary art. However, the history still remains in certain sections of the building. For example, the branding on its side allows the cultural memory to stay intact. As well as being perhaps one of the most widely known and recognised cultural memories of Newcastle, the Baltic Flour Mill can also be considered as an alternative space within the city. The installations and other various works of art that the centre showcases are not to everyone's taste, and although the Baltic does not attract a specific audience, it definitely attracts an alternative one. Another alternative space within Newcastle is known as the Gay Village or the Pink Triangle, and is situated between Central Station and the Metro Radio Arena. The area comes alive at night, and most of the pubs and clubs are filled with a mixed crowd of both heterosexuals and homosexuals. There are several pubs and nightclubs within the space, but it is also home to the Powerhouse, one of the only exclusive gay nightclubs within the northeast. This alternative space, that is fondly known to locals and visitors alike as the Pink Triangle, is expanding rapidly. New gay bars and clubs are constantly opening up due to the redevelopment of the area. This relates to Lawrence Knopp's suggestion that environments in which homosexuality and other alternative communities are given the space that they need, then they will begin to flourish. Newcastle is also home to Gray's Monument, which is a Grade 1 listed monument erected in the honour of Charles Gray II. Although this may not be an alternative space in relation to sexuality or race, the area surrounding Gray's Monument, more commonly known just as Monument, is a popular meeting place for young adults of an alternative community, otherwise known as emo. The base of the monument is also a popular spot for buskers, religious speakers and political activists, in other words, a great place for one to be a flaneur. To be a flaneur, you have to be able to be at one with the crowd around you, staying invisible yet still being able to watch the comings and goings of the people that are passing you by. Monument allows you to do this by providing a range of coffee shops surrounding the outskirts of the area, giving people the opportunity to stay invisible. Another space within Newcastle where one could become a flaneur is the popular quayside. In recent years, the quayside has been heavily redeveloped in order to provide a modern environment for the modern arts, music and culture, as well as being home to a range of different bars, pubs and restaurants along the River Tyne. This is an ideal place to sit and watch the world pass, as the majority of restaurants are raised a little above ground level, giving you a great vantage point. Spaces such as those I have previously mentioned are able to offer visitors to the city of Newcastle a different experience that they may not have had a chance to participate in before. Charles Borderland suggests that the flaneur is at his best in an urban crowd, and that he will find inspiration amid the ebb and flow of moving people within the city attending to their daily tasks, in the midst of both the fugitive and the infinite. It can, however, be argued that within a bustling city such as Newcastle it is not possible to be a flaneur, as with the help of surveillance cameras the majority of the time we are all being watched. Although a flaneur may think they are the one watching, in today's society the truth of the matter is that they are probably being watched themselves. Although we may think that we are invisible, in a sense free, when wandering around a big city more often than not you will be caught on camera. Statistics suggest that the average person living within the confines of a city such as Newcastle will be caught on camera over 250 times a day. Because of this, it can be argued that we are living in a surveillance society that self-regulate. Michael Foucault suggests that regardless of whether or not the camera is working, the mere fact that it is there will cause us to act differently, due to us being scared of the threat of force. The threat of force is something that I personally believe affects the city of Newcastle quite a bit. An example of this is the policing of the city streets, especially after a sporting event such as the football. The police don't necessarily have to do or say anything to the crowd, but just their presence seems to be enough, and the crowd will begin to self-regulate themselves. The points that I have covered throughout this presentation will be explored further within my portfolio, and I aim to focus more closely on the divide between the social classes throughout the years within the city of Newcastle, as well as the relationships between the flaneur and the city as we change ever more into a surveillance society.